things with my SEO girl that I'm excited about. So happy Tuesday. So if you guys that weren't on last week, just as a quick follow-up, we talked last week about a high performance lifestyle and ways to really, level up your life and to improve things. We talked about how words have weight, and what words you use have power, have influence. And the whole idea is to have a positive influence, not just on other people, but to have a positive influence on yourself. And the most important conversation you're going to have is the one with yourself. What you say to yourself, what you tell yourself every day. And, and I talked a little bit about how some of the sayings that my mom said to me growing up as a young man, how I remember them till today. And, things like you're here for a reason. My mom said that to me a lot. You get what you deserve is another big thing that she said to me a lot. And then also we talked a little bit about the importance of driving the subconscious mind and driving, your thoughts into creating actions, and then the actions creating the results that you want in your life. Saying things to yourself like, why is my income growing year over year? And it's a positive, like, why is this happening? It's like in a positive way. Why is this happening? This is amazing that my income is growing year over year. Or a thing that I say to myself is, why do I have such a sexy, ripped body? I say to myself a lot. I need it. That's why I go to work out with my friends like Lupe, who's in the gym with me this morning. We got a good lift in. So anyway, so hopefully that was something you learned last week and you've applied it to your life and it's helped you have a better day and a better week. So today I'm going to talk about some things, and I guess they're called rules, but I call them bullshit rules, things that are just not true, and things that I've heard growing up, and things I've heard other people say to people I care about, and also to people in business that are just bullshit, that are just not true. And so, one thing I know to be true about being successful is if you want to be amazing at something, you want to be extraordinary. I got a buddy that, through my kids' schools that plays in the NHL. And if you want to play at a certain level, you want to be a certain level in your business or in your life, there's actually certain things that people have said to us in general that unfortunately limit our beliefs. Things within our social circles or in our culture, in our country that we live in. Maybe it's from our education, from our schooling. Maybe it's from our traditions, growing up in a certain heritage. And they're just, like I said, they're just certain things that people have said. And I don't think people have negative intentions all the time, but there's things that are said that really get in the way of us being successful. And, and I have a few of them, so I'm going to talk to you guys about them today. The first one is the college degree rule. Rule that my parents said to me forever growing up. The idea is you have to get a degree to be successful in this world. You have to get a college degree. And don't get me wrong, I got a college degree and I value my education. I value my time at Penn State. I value all the things I learned. I value all the parties I went to. I value all the good times, everything about it. And I did get some education for sure. But frankly, getting that degree has had no, it's not the determining factor on whether or not I've been successful. It really isn't. And the facts say most successful people in the world actually don't have degrees. 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 billionaires don't have degrees. They actually went to school and they didn't, for whatever reason, they dropped out. Some of it was because of, the things they were learning. Some of them had legitimate anxiety things. Some of them had dyslexia. Some of them had legitimate challenges and why school wasn't a good fit for them. decided to drop out and they decided to start up companies and create things. You know, the names are like, and if you heard of this one before, Rockefeller. History, if you know history, that's a pretty big name, pretty successful family. But he never graduated. For those of you guys in Michigan, you may not know this, Henry Ford graduated. One of the biggest car companies in the world. Some of you guys that know Virgin, you know, the Virgin Inc., Richard Branson, he never graduated. There's another guy for you guys that know fashion, Amancio Ortega, the guy who owns Zara, European fashion line, the biggest brands in Europe. He's worth $70 billion. Graduated. And so, and it's very interesting to me, right? So, you know, again, don't get me wrong, I'm not talking negative about education, because education, the more you know, knowledge is power, for sure. But getting a degree isn't the determining factor on whether or not you're going to make it in this world. And so in my opinion, that's bullshit rule number one. You don't need a degree. What you need to do is create value at whatever you're doing. And it could be starting a company. It could be creating things. It could be doing something different. And frankly, majority of people that get degrees today aren't even working in their field. Some people study engineering and then they get into entrepreneurship. Some people study finance and they get into, there's just, people don't, that's number one bullshit rule. Number two, and this one I think is a little, this one's a little tricky for some, and it hits home, and at least it has in my family. And it's the bullshit rule that you have to marry somebody within your religion or within your ethnicity or within your culture. You know, I literally have friends that have parents and have family members that are trying to set them up because they have to marry within their culture. And my friends, some of them don't want to. I believe you should be able to marry whoever you fall in love with, whoever you have a connection with, whoever makes you happy. You have to fall in line with what, you know, maybe the culture says, or the religion says, or the, you know, your heritage says. And I'll tell you, I'm very proud of this. My mom didn't do this. In the Colombian side of my family, there's no one that married an American except for my mom. And when she came to the US and was falling in love with the blonde-haired, blue-eyed gringo that my family called him, my father, got a lot of slack for it. Wasn't a part of what people did. So I'm super proud that my mom went against this bullshit rule. And it kind of set the tone. And again, as you guys get to know me more, I get a lot of passion for my mom. A lot of passion. And the decisions she made and how she went against the grain on a lot of things to create, you know, the opportunities that my brother and I have had. So that's bullshit rule number two, is you don't have to marry who other people think you should. In my opinion, you get to choose yourself. And you get to live your life and make your choices, what you think is best for you. So that's number two. Number three is you're not working hard all the time, if you're not working hard all the time, then you're lazy. If you're not working hard all the time, then you're lazy. And it's very interesting because I really lean on my work ethic. I always have. Whether I was doing the business I'm in now, and I've been in for 18, 20 years, or I decided to go play soccer, or I decided to do other things, I would lean on my work ethic. I know in sports, growing up, I had some talent for sure. I had some natural talent, some skills, but it wasn't what got me to the level of the game I played at. I can tell you in the summertime, when a lot of other people in the, college soccer world and really in the athletic world in general were not taking summer workouts seriously. I looked at it as, hey, listen, I got 4 years to make an impact. And my first 2 years, I didn't have that big of an impact in my college career. My 4th year in college, I actually coached. I don't know if you guys know this, but I got cut from my soccer team because I didn't score enough goals because I was a scholarship athlete after I went over to Europe to play. And so, the coach at Penn State literally took away from me something I was living and breathing my entire life. It was some of the worst moments of my life. I went in this dark depression, this really deep place where I was unhappy, and it was just really, really bad. But I realized that, if I was going to be great at it and I had to continue, my dream of playing, I had to get through it. And I ended up playing on the club soccer team at Penn State for a season, fell in love with the game again. And then I ended up playing my 5th year on the varsity team again. So I finished my eligibility. And, after my coach told me my junior year that I'd never play soccer for Penn State again, and the fact that I started my 5th year in tons of games and had the jersey on and my parents were in the stands, was my validation that I can do whatever I want. And so, and I'll tell you, throughout that college career, I spent a lot of those summers in my early years, and I was working, but I wasn't working as hard as I probably should have. Going into my 5th year, I went all out. I was working, doing 2-a-days workouts in the summer. I was playing on 2 different teams, some PDL teams, which are like semi-pro teams. And I was just doing my thing. Now, the crazy thing is there's legitimately studies that are shown that if you go hard for too long, you're going to burn out. So the key is understanding how to turn off your mind, how to turn off the engine, and creating a space where you can do things for you and you don't have to be going hard all the time. And so for high achievers, this is really, really hard, because what you feel like is you feel like a loser, you feel lazy, you feel like it's not, you're not doing the right things. You actually get like anxiety around the fact that you may not be working if you're just chilling. And, that's why I think it's such a BS rule. And I'll tell you, it's taken me many, many years to realize that. So a lot of stress. I used to get on Sundays, I'll tell you this, early in my career, when I was building the business part of our organization, on Sundays, I used to get a headache, like a really bad headache before I went into work on Monday. And I'm self-made, I'm an entrepreneur, it's my company or whatever. But when I took too much time for myself, I would actually get a headache and stressed out because I had work to do the next day. But what I realized is that time off, if I actually spent a little bit of that time planning and organizing and strategizing, the rest of my week would go much better. So for the guys that work with me closely, we have like a weekly schedule There's certain people doing certain things every day. And so when I come into my days, all I do is execute. A lot of thought. I'll give you an example. Preparing for this call and put everything down, I did yesterday and on Saturday. Thinking through what I wanted to do. I didn't do it at the last second. A lot of intention in what I'm doing, right? Which is ultimately lowered my stress levels, lowered my anxieties, and it's helped me come through for the most important people in my life more than to be stressed out and reactionary and behind the eight ball all the time. But the key is if you are going hard all the time, you have this anxiety around taking a day for yourself, it's hard to be great at the rest of your week, right? And this is, like I said, this is a common thing that's been hard for me in my life and my career, and just getting better and improving things. So the key is learning how to turn off the engine, how to polish mind, do things for you. Maybe it's podcasts, maybe it's getting a massage, maybe it's going to work out, maybe it's sitting outside or going somewhere and being in nature with your dog, like whatever it is. To have that time. You know, there's an old story about you know, and I forget what book I think it was in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, about you know, a guy that was in the woods chopping down trees, and you know, he's chopping trees. There's 2 people doing it at the same time, and the one was just going hard for hours and just kept going. And then the one next to him was going hard too, but every like 30 minutes or so would stop chopping the tree and start shaving the axe and relaxing, getting his muscles and relax and getting all the tension out and kind of, you know, clean up the axe and sharpening the axe. And then the other one's still going hard. And then the one that took a little break and sharpened the axe and sharpened the saw, then got back to work. And at the end of the day, the one that actually took the time to sharpen the saw was able to cut down more trees than the one that just went all out the whole day. And it's the idea behind, you need that sharpening of the saw, because if you don't, the saw, the blade will get dull. You got to take time for you. You got to sharpen up and make sure that you know that it's not a race to being successful. It is a marathon. It takes 15 to 20 years to be a quote unquote overnight success. Some of you guys meet me or meet other people in business, and you're like, man, I'd love to have that type of lifestyle. I'd love to live that way. But where were you 10 years ago? I was working my own. Where were you 15, 18 years ago when I was in the field doing what a lot of you guys are doing right now, right? Some of you guys were like infants, which is crazy, right? But that's just the reality. So keep in mind that it's gonna take time, but you gotta learn how to sharpen the saw. You gotta learn how to take time for you. And I think it's a bullshit rule, because I think some people will tell you, all you have to do is outwork everybody. Well, yeah, that's true to an extent, but you have to work hard and you have to get better to sharpen the saw. So that's number 3. And number 4, bullshit rule that I've been thinking about and hearing lately, is you can't be young and successful. You can't be successful if you grew up in X neighborhood. You will never make it because of sex, height, size, talent. I literally had people tell me in sports that I'd never make it because I wasn't big enough. I wasn't like strong enough. I'm tall, I'm skinny, I'm proud of it. It just is what it is. My body's shaped the way it is. People legitimately told me I wouldn't play in college because I wasn't strong enough. You is what I said to them. Watch me. And I did. Same guys in these summer teams, they were like, oh, you play in college? You play at Penn State? Yeah, we're top 20. Yeah, we were ranked #1 in the country last year in D1 soccer. You play there? Really? Actually get playing time? Started of the year. What the fuck you doubting me for? Right? But people do that. People will say things to you and like doubt your potential and just try to bring you down. So it's so important that you realize that what you do is based on what you think about and the effort you're willing to put in. And I don't know, any of you guys, I know there's only a few of you on screen. A lot of you guys aren't on screen, which is totally cool. For those of you guys that I see, did anybody see the Emmys a few nights ago? Anybody watch that? Some people, kind of, sort of. All right, well, in my house, there's a lot of the Emmys on. And I don't know if I'm gonna be able to play this, so give me 1 second. I just want to show you. So first things first, the Emmys, obviously or the Emmys or the Oscars? Emmys, I think it was. So yeah, it was the Emmys. Yeah, and you know they did everything virtually, which was kind of a crazy how they did it. They had all the quote unquote nominees had cameras in their houses. So if somebody won, then it would go to that camera and they'd accept their award at their house. So it's kind of interesting because, you know, again, they're just trying to adapt to the times. But they had this, they gave out something called the Governor's Award to essentially the most influential person in the TV movie world over the last year or two. And I want to play this. For those of you guys that don't know Tyler Perry, what a fucking stud. Like, such an incredible guy, such an incredible story. It gives me goosebumps just like, you know, thinking about his message that I'm going to play for you guys. But holy shnikes, what a stud. What a stud. So I'm just going to play this for you guys since you didn't get a chance. A lot of you guys didn't get a chance to see it. Give me 1 second. I'm going to share my screen and then I'm going to talk about it. So Tyler Perry, share video. So if you have, hopefully you have your video on. But so Tyler Perry accepted the Governor's Award at the Emmys the other night. So here, 1 sec. And I see, I don't see everyone on the screen. So it's Adam. I know we were just talking a second ago. Can you give me a thumbs up that you actually can hear it? Thanks,
I want to say a very special thank you to the Television Academy, to the Board of Governors, Kim Coleman especially, to Ari Emanuel, to Matt Johnson, to everybody at Tyler Perry Studios and my foundation. This is amazing. I didn't expect to feel this way. When I was about 19 years old, I left home and my grandmother, she gave me a quilt that she had made. And this quilt was something that I didn't really care for. It had all these different colors and these different patches in it. And I was quite embarrassed by it. I had no value in it at all. When the dog got wet, I dried him off with it. When I needed to change the oil on the car, I laid it on the ground. I had no respect for this quilt. Many years later, as I was walking past one of those fancy antique stores that I could finally go in and shop, I saw in the window a quilt that looked just like the one that she had given me. And as I'm in the store wondering where that quilt was, there was an attendant who walked up to me and said, "Let me tell you about this quilt. It was made by an African-American woman who was a former slave, and each patch in the quilt she had put in represented a part of her life. One part was from a dress that she was wearing when she found out that she was free. Another part was from her wedding dress when she jumped the broom." And as I was hearing this story, I became so embarrassed. Here I was, a person who prides myself on celebrating our heritage, our culture, and I didn't even recognize the value in my grandmother's quilt. I dismissed her work and her story because it didn't look like what I thought it should. Now, whether we know it or not, we are all sewing our own quilts with our thoughts, our behaviors, our experiences, and our memories. Like in my own quilt, one of my memories when I was about 10 years old, I remember my father standing at the door and I was wondering why he stood there so long. He was frustrated and he walked away, and I asked my mother what was going on. She said he had worked all week and he was waiting for the man to come and pay him, and he never did. They needed the money at the time. And I tell you, she was so frustrated, she turned to me and she said, "Don't you ever stand by a door waiting for white folks to do nothing for you." Now you gotta understand, my mother wasn't a racist, but in her quilt, she couldn't imagine a world where her son was not waiting by the door for someone. In her quilt, she couldn't imagine me actually building my own door and holding that door open for thousands of people. In my mother's quilt, she couldn't imagine me owning land that was once a Confederate Army base, where Confederate soldiers plotted and planned on how to keep blacks enslaved. And now, on that very land, black people, white people, gay, straight, lesbian, transgender, ex-cons, Latin, Asian, all of us come together, working, all coming together to add patches to a quilt that is as diverse as it can be, diversity at its best. I stand here tonight to say thank you to all of the people who are celebrating and know the value of every patch and every story and every color that makes up this quilt that is our business, this quilt that is our lives, this quilt that is America. Because in my grandmother's quilt, there were no patches that represented black people on television. But in my quilt, her grandson is being celebrated by the Television Academy. I thank you for this. God bless you. Thank you.
What a fucking stud, huh? What a stud. You know, and it's so interesting to me, right? So he mentioned how there's certain sayings that his mom said as a young man that influenced. And I feel the same way. There's just certain things that my mom said growing up in the house that have influenced me. You know, and the stories and the times that I remember, you know, just a simple one about work. You know, my mom used to come home a ton. My mom worked in engineering companies because she was an architect. You know, my father was an engineer. That's how they met. You know, and kind of back to falling in love. Like, it's taboo sometimes to date people at work, right? But who's to say, you know, you can't fall in love with somebody that you meet at work? It's crazy. And but you know, as I grew up, my mom worked in other engineering companies, and I will never forget. It was a random Friday, Saturday night. My parents coming home from a company event of my mom. My mom came in, of course, fired up. She's, I can't believe he did that, blah, blah. And I'm just in the house. I think one of my friends was over, we're hanging out. And I just like overhearing them talk. And I remember saying, as my dad went into the bedroom, my mom came out, and I'm like, "Mom, what happened?" "Oh, you know that guy at the office that gives me a hard time? He got his piece tonight." And I'm like, "What? Like, what do you mean?" So long story short, there's this individual at my mom's company that was a superior that, for whatever reason, my mom always felt she wouldn't get options for projects because she was Hispanic. And, you know, whether it was true or not, I have no idea. I wasn't there. But this person had this influence my mom that just got in the way of getting opportunities. She always felt like she's putting foot down. She always felt like she wasn't getting projects. And apparently at this Christmas party, I think it was, so my dad, long story short, was a vice president of another engineering firm in South Florida. My mom's company didn't often do projects, but because they worked with the Department of Transportation, they knew of the different engineering firms because they would compete for the same bids through the government. And apparently what had happened, my mom was off doing something and my dad was at the event. And this person in the company, who I think was a vice president or whatever, started talking to my father, just like, "Hey, how are you? Good to see you, blah, blah." And they knew each other from, you know, just being at a certain level of businesses or whatever, right? Being in engineering. And then my mom walked up and said hello to this person, and they said hi, and he kind of took a double take. He didn't realize that my mom and dad were married. husband was this guy who is, really well recognized and kind of in that industry, well respected. And my mom, after my dad walked away, said this person changed their tune completely. And so when they got home, my mom was like pissed off, fired up, and happy all at once, right? She's like pissed off that the guy's like being the way he was, but happy that he realized that, hey, he needs to freaking change his ways. But that's fucking bullshit, right? Because who you're with and because, you're from a certain area, like that's all BS. But I remember that like it was yesterday. And, there's other scenarios growing up as a kid, like listen to my mom talk about the workplace and discrimination and not getting opportunities. And so when I fell into our business and what we do, and it's being purely performance based, and it doesn't matter where you went to school, it doesn't matter what you did before this, all it matters is what you bring to the table every day. For me, that's why, what I chose to do with my career was such a win on a day-to-day. So listen, guys, my goal today was just simply to get you guys thinking. Get you guys thinking about all the things that people have said to you in your life. And thinking about, is it something that serves you? Are these rules, or these ways, are these things helping you reach your goals and reach what you want to accomplish? And, if they're not, start removing them. Start changing the way you look at them. Start changing the way you think about them. And there's a lot of barriers, a lot of BS rules in our world that society, social circles, organizations, corporate America, large corporations, there's a lot of different things, a lot of different messages that I think get in the way of being successful. And, listen, I am really, really passionate about you living your best life, me living my best life without rules, living on your terms, how you want to live it. And to me, that's the core of entrepreneurship. That's why I choose to be an entrepreneur. That's why I don't work for anyone else. And thankfully, in the business that I'm in, and not everyone on this call is in our business, but a lot of you are, thankfully, at 22 years old, by learning sales, by going out and proving myself and, putting my time in and performing, there's a guy named Michael Sessions. I couldn't be more proud of not just our relationship, our friendship, but how he gave me a chance to start my own company. And he gave me the seed money to get started. Right? I didn't invest in my company. He was the one who invested in me and gave me the capital to start my office and my business. At a time when I was 23 years old and frankly didn't have a track record. All I had was a year of, proving myself in sales with my integrity and my performance, my quality, and he gave me a shot. So again, guys, my goal today is to get you guys thinking. Get you guys thinking about maybe some of these things that our friends or family or just society have said to us. And I encourage you to challenge those thoughts. Challenge what people are saying to you. I had a call with some people, some of the owners in my business yesterday about some of their practices and running their companies. And at the end of the call, I said, hey, listen, I'm not looking to beat you up. I'm not looking to put you down. All I'm looking to do is challenge you. Challenge the way you're thinking about things. Challenge the way you're doing things. And every one of them, and before they got off the call, they said, thank you. And they had a big smile on their face. And I said, listen, I'm not looking for that. But they're like, no, this is one of the best calls we've had in a long time. And I was like, cool. And I personally thought I was a little hard, like actually probably a little bit overboard, but they loved it. And because they're walking away from that call knowing that, hey, I got to get better. I got to level up. So just remember, we all make choices. We all have to live with our choices. The most important thing you can do today and moving forward in general is to make good choices. You're not perfect. You're going to make bad ones. Don't beat yourself up if you do something stupid, especially for you guys in your 20s. You're probably supposed to do that a little bit. You got to like touch the stove and burn it. And you're like, ah, not going to do that again. Right? Totally cool. But just remember, if you want to have a great life, it comes with making great decisions. Consistently great decisions. It's not something you do once in a while. It's something you have to do all the time. Right? It's consistent, positive, strong choices over time. And that's the hard part, because that takes a lot of discipline. And there's a lot of people, and especially as you're young into the business world, most people they're not excited about doing the unsexy good choices, like going to bed early. They don't want to do that. They'd rather stay up. Getting up and working out, who wants to do that? You get sore. Right? But you got to do things like that if you want to have, a great life. So, but remember, you can do whatever you put your mind to. It doesn't matter where you're from. It doesn't matter your background, not just in our business. And, I'll tell you, and I am, when I watch things like, a video about Tyler Perry, and I watch, these other actors and things tell some of their stories, there's just a certain way of thinking that the elite of the elite think. And it's obviously very obvious in my eyes that Tyler Perry and others have that way of thinking. And you can have it too. By the way, that guy's worth over $1 billion with a B. He was literally living out of his car when he started his acting career. Anyone can make it. So happy Tuesday, guys. Again, if you find value in this time on your Tuesday morning, share it with people on your team, share it with people in general. I just opened the link, and anyone can get on. So I appreciate you guys jumping on today. Have an awesome Tuesday. Have an awesome week. We'll be back same place, same time next Tuesday. And good to see some of you guys that are on screen. And for those of you guys that aren't, and probably driving or something, but be safe. But have an awesome week. Cool. Thanks, guys.